Well, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome. It is Friday. That means another episode of Pink Sheep and Friends on Friday. I'm super, super excited. I have a guest today. And before I do that again, my name is Evelyn of Pink Sheep Design. If this is your first time joining my channel, welcome. Every Friday I go live with new guests from the crochet and fiber community so that you guys can get to know some new fiber friends, some new designers. We've had yarn dyers and makers and all kinds of people on here. So super, super excited. And today's guest, actually, we have been talking about going live together for a while, but it's just been trying to get our schedules to line up. And we finally did. So that's super exciting. I don't think that I have any announcements today. I was trying to think. We will have some really fun. I had to do some Barbie hooks, even if it was, the Barbie craze may be over by the time they're ready. I don't think so. They may be ready by this weekend, but we're going to do a small Barbie pink release of our hybrid hooks. So that is this style of hook here. We have some sparkly Barbie pink ones that we're going to be dropping for you guys, hopefully by this weekend. That's the goal. We'll see if I can get them ready in time. So let's see if our guest is already here. Let's see. There she is. So today I am getting to welcome Courtney Flynn. Super excited. Fingers crossed it works. Technology is fun.
Hey!
Hello! Welcome!
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yay! I'm so glad. I feel like a lot of people get really, really nervous.
I do get really nervous, and you're out there all the time, but I'm like, I'm kind of can be incognito a little bit because I don't really show my face a lot. So I'm always like, do you recognize my hands? Can you see like me cutting a pom?
Right.
Then you'll know who I am. But yeah, it's because I get nervous. It's like I'm not one of those people that is out in front of the camera a lot.
Have you ever done a live?
I have done a few lives, yes. Okay. Yeah.
What do you usually focus on when you have gone live?
Just usually the projects that I'm working on or anything like that. And when the book came out last year, we did a couple lives with some of the dyers and things like that. So
Awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. But I think if you have a focus or something, but some people are more comfortable than others. So.
Well, and it definitely took finding a focus. I think I got to a point where, I wanted to go live initially for that being available, like being accessible, like people, could see me and talk to me. They would know what I look like, what I sound like. But I kind of got to a point where I wasn't sure. I was going live every week, at least once a week, and trying to figure out what to talk about. And it wasn't until this really got honed in that now it's easy because
Yes.
I know what my focus is going to be. I get to talk to new people every week, which is really fun, and create the new connections. And I think it makes it a lot easier than just like soloing it.
Yes, and your lives are awesome, and I think it's just you get used to it, and the more you do it, I agree. It's like really important to put yourself out there. It's hard, right? It's like
Yes.
I'm a knitter. I knit, and then I like to show off what I knit, but I don't want, the intent was never to show me off, but
Yes.
it's important to connect with people as well. So I agree. Yeah.
So for anyone who does not know you, if you want to do just like a quick little intro of who you are and what you do.
My name is Courtney Flynn, and I am the one-woman show behind Flynn It. I do all the knitting myself. I started out doing finished products, right? Like finished hats, cowls, scarves. Who wants a scarf here?
Yes.
Until you kind of run out of people and family and friends that are willing to do that. And then I got into pattern design a few years ago, and that kind of took off. And so now I'm more into designing of the patterns and less on the finished objects, although you have to make samples basically of everything that you are designing. And so I do still make a lot of hats. Hats has been kind of my thing. And that's kind of how I grew my brand with hats, and they're quick, you know, they're really satisfying because you can make a hat very quickly. And now I'm starting to branch out into sweater design. So I have my very first sweater pattern. It's actually with tester. It's been tech edited and with testers right now. So that'll be coming out. I have no idea how the sweater process works as much in garment. So the testers will be done at the end of the month-ish. And so depending on how the feedback goes and how that goes, it'll be end of August, early September. I want it ready for fall. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really exciting. I mean, that's a big step going from the hat designs to sweater designs, just with the sizing involved, I would think.
It's a huge step. And basically I was kind of scared to even do it, and kind of behind the scenes for months and months, almost a year or more, you know, making sweaters, taking classes about sweaters, taking courses on grading. There's a lot involved, and I definitely want it to be size inclusive in the best way. That was my goal, to have that fit be similar across all sizes. There's a lot involved in it, you know. I mean, it's a lot. So I felt really good, you know, with the finished sweater, and that, you know, you accomplish something new. I mean, it's great to kind of push yourself, and you know, I had no idea how it would work out, but I feel really good about the work I put into it to make it the best it could possibly be, and that I learned something new. So it's like good, you know, that's an awesome, it's very empowering to learn a new skill. And I think we're so ingrained in what we're doing, and you know, you make hats and hats and hats and hats, and I still love hats, don't get me wrong, but it is fun to try something new and really push your limits, because I feel like you can really grow as a designer that way. So
definitely. I think I jumped in probably faster than I should have into wearable designs. And, you know, I think my first pattern was like, you know, small, medium, large, you know, whatever, let's get it out there. I've made so many of them. Why not try? But now it's like, looking back, I don't regret releasing the patterns, because I feel like I wouldn't have continued to release them if I hadn't just taken the plunge and said, you know, I'm just gonna put it out there and see what happens. But there's so much growth, and I mean, I feel like I learn something new from every single pattern that I release. And you know, it's really the testers that have helped me, especially with the size inclusivity, because it's not just about the measurements. It really is about it being on a body, and then that person saying, hey, I wouldn't wear this, you know, like, this is not, whether it's flat, it doesn't flatter the person, or it doesn't sit the right way, or it doesn't fit them like it fits me, you know, having the same look. And thank goodness for just amazing testers that are willing to give that feedback, you know, and me being willing to listen. I think that's a big part of it, is not, don't let your pride get in the way of like, I know you worked hard on this, but you may have to go back to the drawing board. Like, that happens.
Yep. And that's a really good point, because I think being open to getting that communication from testers, from a tech editor, from whoever you're working with, and really listening to it, because, you know, you've got those middle size ranges, and then you've got the smaller and the larger, and you want it to be like authentic and have that same fit across the ranges, not be some different product over here and a different product down here. It's like, you want it to look the same. And you're right, being on a body, seeing how that fits is super important.
Yarn Junkie UK did say it's an amazing sweater pattern, by the way. I don't know if she's one of your testers or...
She is one of my testers, yes. And I do not have my glasses on, so I can't see the fine print. But yes, she is. And this is, I brought the original down here, but this is the...
I love it.
So it's got minimal color work in the yoke, and then it has some design at the end. But I really wanted it to be, I do feel, and I don't know if you've encountered the same thing, but I do feel like among my core hat people, that people are afraid to try garments. People are afraid, like, it's going to take forever, it's going to be too hard, I don't understand the construction. So many things, and all of those things went through my head as well. But so to try and convince somebody to try a pattern, I wanted to make it as accessible as possible and simple. I mean, color work and a circular yoke for me seemed like a no-brainer because I love the color work, but I didn't want it to be so much color work, at least in my initial first sweater, to overwhelm people and they just see it and think it's too hard. So it's kind of a leap to kind of bring people over to that garment world because I think there's a lot of just you're scared to try something new like that, you know?
Yeah. I think I really found a good niche in this kind of super, super beginner friendly garments with the chunky yarn because it's so fast. I mean, you can literally make a cardigan in a weekend. I mean, there's people who make them in a night if you're a really quick crocheter. And I feel like if I can open that door, you know, to allow them to like make their first one, and then they're like, oh, well, I do understand color work because maybe I've done amigurumi or maybe I've done some hats that have color work. So now I can put the two together. And I think people have a lot more confidence to go out and try some of these more intricate designs that have the color work, that have the more detailed construction or shaping, you know, and I think I love that there are so many budding designers too now that are coming out and putting new stuff out there and trying different things. And I think, you know, people are just going to continue to learn, you know, and get better at their craft and create more things that they love.
Yes, I agree. And exactly what you said. Like, I think, trying to bring them over and showing them like chunky yarn, like you're working on a dress right now for a wedding.
It's not chunky yarn. So that's been...
But that's like, I mean, that's crazy. And it's just going along with your process to show that, hey, you're doing this, you have a deadline and you're going to make it work is, I think, inspiring to people, you know, that you're doing it.
Yeah. And I will show you, I haven't shown it on here yet, except for like the little subscriber channel, but I do have it sitting here because I was working on pockets. It is technically 2 strands of a 4-weight yarn. So it would be kind of considered a bulky, but I'm only using a 4.5 millimeter hook because I want that really tight stitch definition. So I'm not having to like wear a whole bunch of stuff underneath it.
Okay.
So this is the top is like my bralette. So it is like a ballerina style, I guess would be called, kind of thing happening there. And it's got the corset back for the top, but then the bottom is attached, not on the back, but just on the front. Oh, wow. And I did all of the increases to make it more of like the bubble tutu style. And it's
so damn cool. I mean,
and then there's the first pocket, and it is actually finished. I did finish this first pocket. So I wanted the pink accent at the top of the pocket, but this yarn is being discontinued by Hobie.
Okay.
And when I decided to make a dress, I didn't know how much yarn I was going to need. I'm not following a pattern. No idea. So I have made 2 subsequent purchases of more yarn, and there was no more pink after the first order. So I literally have this accent here on the edge at the front of the pocket, right inside, but then the rest is going to be the gold since I had that one. But nice deep pockets. I wanted my phone to fit in there. Since I want to wear it to a wedding, it needs to be functional. And then the back, I just realized I did have some little hook and eye loop pieces, so I have to have this open to fit it on over my shoulders. Okay. But then I'm gonna hook and loop that there, and I don't know how flat that'll lay or not. But again, it's my first one, so it's fine. It's fine if it's not perfect.
And those colors, hot pink and orange, are like, that's I love it. And I love it with the, I know. Yep. And that is so cool. I think that's really important too, that like when you're designing something that's really interesting that you point out, like they didn't have pink anymore. So you're like, well, I'll use the pink as an accent here.
Yeah.
Sometimes those things just come up on the fly as you're designing and you're not, that wasn't the plan, but you kind of go with the flow,
Exactly. So I would love to know, when did you start crocheting? Knitting, when did you learn? And do you crochet at all?
I do not crochet, and I learned to knit. I knew you'd probably ask me this. I think it was about 6 years ago. It was like 2017. And I've always
it wasn't that long ago.
no, it's,
Wow.
yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of took off. I had always been like loved art, you know, and been like, you know, I would make like jewelry or like beads and paint and watercolor. And like, I've always loved that kind of stuff. And I always, had wanted to know how to knit, but just didn't know anyone personally who did it. And I felt like it's something you kind of need to learn from somebody, you know. I refer to YouTube a lot for, you know, after I learned the process, but I really wanted to learn from somebody, and there wasn't really like a knitting group in my area or other knitters that I knew. And so I basically, my daughter had a friend over, and her mom dropped her off and was wearing a hat. And I was like, oh my God, I love your hat. She's like, really? I made it. And I'm like, no way. So she came back. Yeah. She's like, well, let me teach you. And she came back early, and she brought a pair of knitting needles and some yarn, and sat down there and cast on for me. And I'll never forget, she had one like aluminum metal needle and one plastic needle, because she didn't like the sound of two plastic or metal needles hitting each other.
Gotcha.
I probably still have those needles. And she cast on for me and is like, okay, this is how you knit. And she's like, just make like a scarf, just make something and don't give up. Like it might have, I think she cast on 20 stitches or something. And it was like, it might have 21 and then 23 and then 19. And there's holes and everything, but it was just a garter stitch, really simple scarf. And I learned so much from that process. And I kind of went through the whole skein, but it was like, oh yeah, this looks like crap over here, and there's holes, and the edges are wavy because it's not, you know. But you learn from that, and I just loved the fact that you start with a ball of yarn, and you have this like thing that you made, like it's you know, something you created,
and functional.
Yes. And so she cast on for me that day, and then I just like never stopped. Like I'm like, okay, I got to learn this. And I didn't even know like what the difference between a knit and a purl stitch was. Like I didn't know anything. And just the more I practiced and the more scarves I made and the more things I made, you just, you know, figure things out. And knitting in the round for a hat, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. And just kind of just kept going. And you know, like I think you had a reel the other day, like you crochet like every day. It's like I'm knitting every day. I think a lot of us makers, that's what we're doing. And so the more you're practicing, the more you're, you know, being able to experiment too. Like, I wonder what would happen if I, you know, did this or did that. And just kind of learn from it. So that's kind of how I got started.
That's awesome. And so do you do this full time now, or do you do other things as well?
I do this full time now. Yeah. Which, if you had told me that 6 years ago when I was like
making your first scarf.
I mean, I look back on those, and it's like, I posted something, I think on Facebook at the time, and it was like, you know, I don't know where this new like hobby of mine is going to lead, but like, let's see. And it's like, just these like scarves. And at that time I bought like, I would buy yarn that was like especially like nubby and stuff, because then you couldn't see the mistakes as well as if you know. So
looks like it's on purpose at that point.
So all of them were all this nubby yarn and stuff. And and to see where it's taken me, it's like, okay, cool, you know.
So I know that it's probably, I mean, you know, learning 6 years ago, this was a long journey, but when did you kind of get that idea of I could make a living doing this?
I didn't know at first if I would make a living, but I knew it would bring like a little side money, I think is what I thought. And I started selling my finished products on Etsy. So I was like, okay, let me put them up there and see what happens. And there's a lot of competition on Etsy and website, like for finished items, right? Because and then there's so many different price ranges. So it's really, I found it difficult to sell finished products online because it's a little difficult. But I got connected through my job at the time through to a local farm near me, where they have, it's like a farm, but it's a working farm, but what they do is they basically have like a fall festival, and they have a Christmas tree farm, and they have the facilities to have a gift shop. So they have a large gift shop, and I kind of like interviewed with them and kind of said, can I sell my hats over at
Yeah.
the farm? And they're like, well, let us see the materials you're using. Let us see some photos of what you're doing. And it started out, I think, they're like, we'll do like 40 hats for our first year.
Wow.
And then
And that's a lot.
yeah, I was like so excited. And then it went to 100 the next year, and now we're at 200. So every year I get 200
and
hats.
you still do this.
I still do it. Yeah. So that's kind of where all my finished products go. That's really the only place my finished products go.
Yeah.
But that's been a great opportunity for me because it's connecting with a local farm, connecting with local people. So I'll get, messages sometimes like, hey, I want that hat, and it's like, okay, it's going to the farm, usually. So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I think that's wonderful because that's, the issue that I run into is the accumulation of finished pieces because of the patterns.
Yep.
Now some I want to keep, I tend to, I tend to make things that I want to make and that I would want to wear. But I think that, it really comes down to, at that point, just space. And then there are some things where I'm like, this was cool, but I don't find myself wearing it out of the house very much. So I tend to try to do like a sample sale. So I'll have things for sale, but it can be difficult to move those just because it is all online. I don't have somewhere that I can send them, or, I think if I still lived in Atlanta, there were a lot of shows that I could have gone to, but where I am now, it's a little more difficult. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But finding a way to, especially if you're mainly designing, to have somewhere for those to go is very helpful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and then, there are a lot of makers too who, we all have so many different paths, but like markets. And then that's got its own, you got to get a booth fee. You've got to set up, you've got to spend the time too. You're spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day for however long those markets are going on. So there's a lot of, cost, revenue.
Just packing up the car. Like I did markets regularly for about 2 or 3 years and was doing anywhere from like 8 to 12 a year in the, the fall time.
Yes.
And sometimes I would just leave the car packed because I didn't want to have to lug everything inside and then put it back out in the car.
Yes.
So
yes. And were you set up everything and had to, do it all yourself, right?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. It was very rare that you had help. Every now and then, if you were at a smaller show, maybe if it was at like a church, they would have, some of like the teens, I guess, that age would come out and maybe help you load and unload your car. But that was very rare. Usually it's just you and they're long days. And if it's a multi-day market, but you can't leave your stuff set up, then that's a lot. Having to load up and come back for, 2 days in a row is quite a feat.
Yes.
So,
yes. And did you get, I know from friends of mine who do markets, that they'll, a lot of times people will say, oh, I love that, but could I have it in this color, or kind of thing, where you run into like not wanting what you actually have, but maybe something else,
Yes. Luckily, I didn't have as much of an issue because I had such a focus on color. I would try to I would learn as I went what were the best sellers, and I would focus on those, but then I would buy colors that I liked. So I would usually have quite a few things thrown in there, which was really helpful. So luckily I didn't have a lot of custom orders, because I think that would be, I've never been a big fan of custom orders when it starts to get to where you're doing a lot of them, because it is, you take the money and now you're obligated to make the item. And then if you get overwhelmed, you're just going to hate the process, unless you really, really love making it and you're really excited about doing it. And that's why now, I've taken 2 orders for custom baby blankets this year. And it was because I haven't done a custom order in so long. And the customer was fine with it being 2 strands of super bulky yarn held together, so I could use my 19mm hook to make a huge squishy baby blanket. And then I actually enjoyed it because it's yarn I already had. It's quicker. I didn't get to the point where I got frustrated or bored with it. And so when she asked me for another one, I was like, sure. And she was willing to pay what I felt it was worth, so it's finding the right customers if I'm going to take those kinds of orders now, that kind of fit within what I need too.
Yeah. I did a lot of custom when I first started out on Etsy. Like here's all the colors I have,
Yes.
whatever. But it's exactly what you said. Like you hear the little cha-ching, but then you're thinking, oh, that's 5 hours. That's 5 hours. That's, you know, and you start thinking, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I don't know if I can keep up with it all.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
So Miss Pearl Chicago did say, I can't wait to see your annual hats picture. So you want to tell us a little about that?
She's awesome. It's Kamaka. She runs Miss Pearl in Chicago and has been just super supportive of so many makers and the community. She's so involved, helping knitters, helping crocheters, getting involved. And I just, I love everything she's doing. Her shop is so welcoming, and she just opened last year, and I've been there a bunch of times. She's invited me when I came out with my book. She had me in there, and just love her. She's amazing. But she was commenting on my hat picture. So I make these 200 hats a year, and I don't know why. I don't know. It was felt like 200 hats. That's a lot of hats, right? So I'm like, I gotta find some way to like show them. So my first year it was like 40, and I'm like, oh, here's a lot of hats. And then it kept growing, and then I'm like, it's hard to see like what's going on, so I'm gonna like lay down in the hats. And so I started doing that. And so like I'll put on a hat. I did a Where's Waldo one year type of thing where I'll put on the hat and then I lay amongst all the hats, you know. But people thought it was like photoshopping my face in, and I'm like, no, like literally guys, I am laying down on the floor among all the hats, right? And so I did, when reels, you know, started taking off, I actually had a reel of me laying out all the hats last year. That was the first time I had done that. But I usually take a picture like when I'm laying on the ground. My husband's like up on a desk. Like we had this whole setup last year, like a ladder and a 2x4 and camera. I mean, it's like insane. But I'll take the picture of him like up there while I'm on the floor, because I'm like, no, this is legit.
I do feel like I do feel like I remember seeing that when she commented that. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what she's talking about, but I wanted to be sure.
Yeah. And I'm I'm gearing up for that now. So like I knit all of those hats, and then I also make all the poms, obviously, for those.
And are they all pom hats or some with and without?
I used to do some without, and I it's kind of every year it's like with or without, but I also make faux fur poms too. So I'm like everything from start to finish with those. I hand sew on all the tags. I'm crazy. So but I do all that, and so I just have to get those ready. Most of the hats are knit and tagged, but I do need to attach all the poms and make a bunch of poms. So but I love making the poms too. So, and
you work on this all year, I'm guessing.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like did you see the movie Elf? I mean, I feel like most people have.
Right.
When they get done with Christmas, they're like, only 364 days left till next Christmas.
Yes. And in fact, the day I drop them off, the farm opens like the weekend after Labor Day every year. So I drop them off right that weekend before, usually, or right around then. So like right end of August, early September. And then I'm like, I gotta start making hats for next year, you know? So, throughout the year, I'm at a slower pace, but when I'm kind of in the moment anyway, I'm like, let me crank out, 20 hats here or something. And just so I can kind of not feel like in July, holy crap, I got to knit, 50 hats or something.
Yep. How many duplicate hats do you tend to make, or are they all unique?
That's a really interesting question. Mostly I would say unique. I do, I think there's a market too for just like plain, say like a gray or a plain black hat. People want that to match their coat or whatever they're going to be wearing. So I do, I'll probably make, 20 gray hats or 20 black hats or something like that. But most of them are color work or from a pattern or, hats that I've made to show off a pattern or anything like that. So yeah.
Awesome. So what was the process like? I feel like I've talked to quite a few people about their books. There have been quite a few people who've come on lately who have either published in the past or have newly published. What was that process like for you?
It was a lot. It was, I brought the book over here.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful book.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah.
The publisher approached me just about doing a book of hats, and my background is in journalism and writing, and so the idea of combining that background and then knitting
like a
was like, oh my gosh, yeah, it was like, this is awesome. I can do this. But I had been publishing patterns for about 3 years when they came to me, and just to give you an idea, I had 29 self-published patterns within 3 years. And so they're like, we need 30 patterns within like 6 months. Like,
and they have to be not already published.
Nothing that had already been published. And so I think I like blacked out like during the phone call because I was like 30, like my mind just started like 30 patterns, you know.
Do you guys know how hard these are to make?
Right. And within 6 months, and by that time, time's ticking already. So then it's like 5 months, it's whatever. And I also wanted to shoot the photography myself for the book. So I shot all the flat lay photography, and then worked with a portrait photographer to do, you know, the model photos, because that's not my thing as much. But I wanted to do that as well. So it was also shooting every photo as well, because I just wanted it to be cohesive. I wanted you to look at my Instagram and know that that's me. And I wanted you to pick up my book and know that's me, and not pick up a book with like a white background or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that, just that that's not like what my vibe is. And so branding, right. So like my website, so it's kind of like I wanted it to be across the board the same kind of thing. And so if people went to the bookstore or the library, wherever you get it, you pick it up and you're like, this is a Flynn book, and you just know that's what it is. So I was happy that they gave me that leeway, like that I was able to do that, was able to do the patterns. But it was very you know, you just have to be dedicated to what you're doing. It's like, instead of, I feel like doing a pattern this week, or, you know, well, not to be so flippant about it, because I know a lot of us do plan things out, but, you know, you have a little more flexibility when you're not on such a tight. So
and that's a lot. That's a lot of work. I mean, just hearing how many patterns, and you said it was in 6 months that you had to come up with all 30 patterns and finish and shoot them.
Have the photography and all the patterns, and tech edited and tested. So like, where I'm used to, okay, here's one pattern out, and you're getting your input from 5, 7, 10, however many testers you have. I was sending out 5 tests at a time. Like, you know, so it's like, and the initial test I sent out, I was sending them out to the testers, but I didn't have the name of the pattern in it. And then I'd be getting all this information back from, and I'm like, oh shoot. Like, so then I'm like, okay, you got to put the pattern name in the, you know, not just, but trying to keep track of yardage and colors and everything from all coming in at once, you know, while designing for the next round to go out, you know. So,
I mean, I feel like I would have needed to be locked in a room by myself for 6 months.
It was intense, I must say, but I also knew I was not, that is like, you know, you have so many opportunities, or, well, not all of them are total opportunities, but you know, you have so many people come to you with ideas for things, and some things seem right, and some things are like, that's not right for me. That's not a good fit. When this book idea came to me, it was an immediate yes. It was like, okay, I am doing this, so how can I make it work? And I also knew it was a finite time frame. So it's like, okay, for these 6 months, you're going to have to like, you know, hunker down and like bust your butt. But in the end, you're going to have a book of patterns for like ever or whatever. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. Well, we have a few more minutes left, and I definitely wanted to touch on Instagram and your photography, because I think if someone is following you, you are so recognizable and especially now, even with your reels. So you've done a really good good job transitioning, you know, and pivoting, I guess, because I mean, I think you were one of those designers that for me was like the epitome of the OG Instagram beauty reel. I mean, like, you know, when you look through, like your photos were just amazing. Like, you knew how much time went into that. And I would love to know from the beginning, like what that looked like, trying to hone in your style and what kind of inspired that, because I think it was really like seeing like I'm envisioning the hat with the pom pom, and then just all of the beautiful colors of the scrap yarn surrounding it, placed so intricately. What was that like for you in your head, like trying to figure that out?
I loved, I, like I was talking about art before, and I just love art. And so I see people ask me, like, why do you spend so much time doing the photo for it? I'm like, I see the photo then as a piece of art, right? It's like, here's my hat I created. And not to say just me, but like, I think everything any maker creates is its own little piece of art. That's just how I feel. I feel everything we're creating is a beautiful thing. And I think that takes some of the pressure off of ourselves to think this has to be like perfect, right? So you create this little piece of art, and then I'm gonna make it look pretty and take a pretty picture, and it's all art. It's all like fun to me. So I actually enjoy setting up the flowers. Well, back in the day when pictures still like meant so much, right?
Ruled Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I really loved doing that, and like I'd go outside or go, my neighbor was really kind and would let me pick some of her flowers. She always knew, like, I know my neighbors are like, what the hell is this girl doing? Because I'd be out there or like looking for a certain color leaf in a tree, and I once took a ladder and there was like this little cluster of like yellow leaves and I needed them. So I'm like out in a ladder picking only the yellow leaves because I needed that, but I love doing that. And I think it's a really good question, because Reels, that was tough to then be able to market yourself through what's going on now, which is all the videos. And I started out doing Reels that were like me doing a flat lay, like basically here's the behind the scenes, like this didn't just happen, like here's all the stems and here's all the, the yarn in the background, like showing people. But then I just realized, like you said, like if it's recognizable, I just want to be myself. So I like 90s hip hop. Mostly all of my Reels have like a 90s hip hop or anything like, I just love that kind of music. And so I started deciding that like there's a lot of knitting videos maybe with like classical music or whatever you're into, right? Like very soothing. Mine are not, like, I don't listen to that. So I'm like, I'm jamming out to something, and so I'm going to put that in my reel. And I think that has resonated just by, I think, anybody who can at least try to be themselves as much as possible, right? Like, so that's me, and you might not always like it, but at least I'm putting myself out there authentically as I can, right? And not every day I'm doing some fancy flat lay. So then it turned into just, okay, let's do some knitting, or let's make a pom-pom. And I do make poms. That's what I'm doing. I'm knitting these hats. And
they're amazing.
So it's like, okay, well, here's me cutting a pom, and that's really taken off too. People are interested in seeing, okay, how's this going to look, or how does she do this? And that's been super fun for me too. I never thought, I just was like, here's what I'm doing to cut poms for my hats,
Yeah, the pom-pom reveals are really cool. I mean, I think that was a really, really creative idea, to know that, again, you're already having to make them. I think that's, I've struggled if I don't need to make a pom-pom for something, then I'm just going to make a pom-pom and have a pom-pom. I think I have at least 5 pom-poms that I don't, maybe we made a new tool that was just like a simple pom-pom wrap tool.
Yeah.
So I had to make a video of how to use it. And I'm like, but these, I guess I'll make a garland one day. I don't know. I'll just keep collecting them as I have them. But I think using what you're already having to do and finding a way to showcase that, like you said, making a reel of the setup, of the pictures you already want to take, because I still see those, because I feel like, it's got to be something that you enjoy. So you don't want to stop doing something that you enjoy, but finding a different way to market it. And then, thankfully, you can still use the beautiful cover photos. Like, I think that was the same for me. I want my feed to look a certain way and look, polished in a way, and so being able to still take the more professional looking photos mixed in with some of the kind of top down shots of me with like my hands with working with something. I'm glad that that's still an option. I think it'd be really sad if it was like, you have to choose something from your video, at least I can still do a cover photo.
And that's been something I've been doing too, is just I still film it all on my dining room table. That's where all those photos are taken. That's where all my reels are made. And I still think if you can look at my reels, you'll still see, like you said, you want that cohesiveness to your feed, and it's still got that look to it as much as you can, because reels are, it is different, it's a different thing.
Yep.
But I'm trying to have as much fun with it as I can, and just kind of, sometimes I'll knit and like just time the music to the beat of like me knitting, or trimming the palm to the beat, just something like fun, just trying to have fun with it. And
and it's figuring out what you actually like when it comes to making the videos, because I realized really early on I was not going to be able to lip sync. Like all these people that do really well with like lip syncing these whole long things and doing all of that, I suck at it. I'm going to laugh at myself and have bloopers that, not that that's not a good thing. Like I do think that being authentic and like having fun with it and showing, screw ups every now and then is fun. But I felt like for me, it felt like a waste of time. So I was like, there's other things I could be doing. I'm not going to see that kind of return on investment of putting all this time into trying to make this like super perfect lip synced reel. So it's rare that I do that. And I actually got a little overexcited when I just posted the Barbie pattern roundup. So I did the roundup. And at the beginning, I had gotten my iPad and I turned on the Aqua song and I turned on my phone and I lip synced to the song playing on the thing and just did. And it literally was just like the high Ken and sure Ken, to that. But I told my husband, I was like, it was really good.
Yeah.
Because I don't do that.
It's all your like smiling face and your positive energy. And I think that's what comes across. And so, like you said, it's like, if people are good at the lip syncing, I'm terrible at it too. Like that's like not for me, but it's like, do your thing.
And
so like it's great. Yes. There's room for everybody. It's like, do that. If that's what you want to do, great. And I love seeing that, because I'm always jealous. Like, how did you time that? Like, so like, I could never, I'd be off, So that's that. And then it's been nice to see like people and makers grow. You do see more of people and their style through the reels. And even like a music choice or something. It's like you get to get more of a feel for who that maker is. And I think as long as you are yourself, really yourself, like do your thing, you're good,
Yes. And I've always said, and it comes up a lot during these chats, is you get back what you put out. So like if you're being yourself, you're going to attract the people that truly like you for who you are, because that's who they're seeing. So if they're seeing the authentic you and they want to hang around and they want to get to know you more and they want to support you, then like you are building your truest audience and followers and fans and supporters that you could possibly ask for. And I don't think there's anything better for someone who's trying to, whether it's still a hobby and it's something just make some side money, or whether it's something you want to do full time, you're going to need those kinds of people.
Yes. And you're right. That's who you want as your core group of followers, customers, whoever it might be, friends. I mean, how many, it's like so cool that you do this and that like we get to connect this way.
Yes.
It's awesome. I mean, that's what I love most about it. And Instagram, and you can, social media of course has its ups and downs, but this is good. Like what we're doing is good. To meet each other and be able to talk like in depth about our craft, and you crochet, I knit, like it's just like I love it. You know.
Exactly. And I've gotten to a point now where I think I've had 2 or 3 people that have come back on after 6 months or so or more, even a year now. I think this is episode, I can't remember, 58 or 59 or something, and so getting to be able to bring people back to like focus on specific topics, because now we've already got a connection, and it's growing that community in that kind of way, I think is great for everybody. Because then you're like, anytime now, I do these like crochet mystery boxes, and like I'm like, I got a person for this. If I need pom-poms, I got a person for that. If I want to put yarn in it, I got a person. If I, like you have all these people now that you can connect with and support them in different ways, and have collaborations, have collaborative giveaways, or whatever it is that you want to do. There are so many opportunities, and, I hope that I hope that it continues. I hope, you know, I mean, there's so many people. I don't think I'll run out of people to talk to, but
right. Well, no, you've had some cool people. I mean, just like, it just opens my eyes to people that I don't know, because I might not know as many crochet artists out there. Although I do, I love to follow people of all, like, just all different crafters, right? Like, not just knitters. I love to follow crochet artists as well, and just like you find really cool people.
Yes, and if Instagram doesn't feed it to you, you know, I think that's a lot of us are spend so much time on Instagram, you know, posting and doing all that, that sometimes I don't have time to scroll through. Like, I want to, and sometimes I will make myself sit down and just scroll through like my home feed and the people I follow to show some support and see what everyone's up to. But if I don't get fed, you know, a new person, and, you know, or if I don't seek that out and start scrolling through reels and lose, you know, 3 hours of the day,
I know,
I may not find the new people, you know. So I think it's anything like this, I think, is helpful to, you know, help people. If they like me, then, you know, maybe they'll join in and watch a live and discover someone that they can really connect with as well. I had one more question before we go, because I don't want to keep you.
Of course.
Because you shoot on your dining room table, what does that setup look like for lighting? Do you have enough natural light in there, or have you found lighting that you like?
I do not use any non-natural light. So it's literally, it's like the sun coming through the window right there.
So nice.
And sometimes that'll create shadows and stuff, but then I'm like, well, that's what's happening. So that's what, you know, but it is like, I know, okay, during the winter, like 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., that's the prime sun. Like, that's when it's coming in. And now it's like 3, 4, 5 o'clock. So it's just, it changes as like the seasons go. And then when we have like rainy days or cloudy days, I'm like, oh my God, like last winter was brutal. And I've tried to use ring lights, or like, what do you call it? Like, my camera holder has like a little ring light in it, but I just,
never the same.
No, it's never the same as that natural, and it's on that wood backdrop of the table. And so I just love that natural look of the light. So I don't use any other light.
That's
Sometimes
really
I'll
cool.
have to turn, that's a lie. Sometimes I'll have to turn on like a overhead light that's off to the side, just to bring, because sometimes it'll be too much light coming through the window and not as much from the other side. So I'll turn that on just to balance the light. But it's all shot, you know, like during the day, you know, when I can get that good sun.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really good to know. I mean, and I tell people that all the time, that nothing beats having it. I have one window over my kind of top down where I'm working now. It's like on this side. But I also have a box light. So I got one of those box lights off of Amazon, and I do the same thing. So if the light is really harshly coming in this way, I'll put it behind me if I'm shooting down on the table. But for photos of myself, it's going to be outside. I mean, even, you know, I'll figure it out.
Right. Well, and it's trying to figure out that, not the direct light, but that indirect light. So, yeah.
It's turned us all into photographers, even if Instagram is trying to not do that anymore. Still.
It's like, I swear, it's like half your day. It's like reels and emails and all, like nothing knitting related, right? It's like everything that is something else. And I think we all taught ourselves those things too. It's not like there's some manual out there to figure out like how to do all this stuff. So, you know, props to all the makers.
I think some people are lucky if they studied marketing or graphic design, you know, if they have some of that. But I think a lot of people didn't. I mean, my degrees were biology and psychology has helped, you know, that's been very helpful. But like everything else, it's, you just figure it out and read blogs and watch YouTube and read books, you know?
Yes. And I think be involved in what other makers are doing too. So I love that you do this and like are inviting other people in, because the more you can see other makers and kind of the process behind it, it really makes you feel like, okay, I'm not alone, and I'm not the only one that's struggling with this stuff, because it
much less isolated. Yep. It can be very isolating, for sure. I think finding where your community is. If you can find some kind of sense of community or connection, I think it's really important. So, well, I appreciate you so much. It's already a little past 12:45, so I will let you go. But thank you for coming on, and
thank you for having me. This was really great, and I'm so glad, because we started this like months ago, and it's just trying to find the time.
It's been a long time.
But I'm so happy to be here. I feel very grateful to you for inviting me, and I really appreciate it.
We may have to do another follow-up because I would love to hear about your experience at Our Maker Life too, because I know you went to that.
Yes.
So we'll have to figure another one out. We can pick some topics and chat about some specific things. And I think that's the direction this will go. So, you know, I'm going to still have new people on, but I would love to start bringing people back, and we can pick topics and focus points and, you know, what's happening in the world. And new things, you know. So if I have a feeling you'll probably have another book in your future. So get the sweater patterns down, and we'll see, right?
I know. So.
Well, thank you again. And for anyone who joined in late, this will be available to rewatch on my YouTube channel. I mean, on my Instagram first, and then within a couple of days, usually I have it uploaded onto YouTube. That is a podcast/video series on YouTube, so you can bookmark it if you need something to binge. You can meet some new people. But I think that's everything for now. And so until next time, happy hooking, guys, and happy knitting.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.